Prof. Chabata.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, let me introduce Prof. Chabata. He is currently the Quality Assurance Manager, but he is a very well-known professor in the language area. He has written a lot, including dictionaries. Is that so, Professor?
That's true.
Yeah, he has written even dictionaries. So you can see that we are graced with a very powerful individual. Prof. Chabata, I can give you this time, I can introduce you to everyone, but I think there are too many people for me to pinpoint, but we are a group who are interested in innovation, and this week we are talking about heritage-based innovations, and because of your vast experience in languages, we brought you in to talk about innovation and language, how language can benefit from innovation, and of course, how language can also influence innovation. Over to you, Prof.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc. I'm not that powerful in terms of in terms of the knowledge that's out there in terms of innovation and language. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to prepare for this talk. So somebody was supposed to be talking to you right now. Unfortunately, Dr. Namo could not get in touch with the professor. So I'm just coming in, at short notice. So I did not prepare, a real presentation, an academic presentation, as it were. I did not, as you can see, we will not have, a PowerPoint presentation. Anyhow, I think I asked, for permission from Dr. Namo to say, can we just have this as a discussion and not, a formal presentation, because then a formal presentation would have meant that I have a bit of time to prepare, to research and to produce something that's coherent. But I guess we can just proceed, and just to note that there's an important relationship between language and innovation, and my task is to actually try to see how innovation benefits from language, and how language also benefits from innovation. I guess that's the discussion. So to appreciate, this kind of discussion, I guess we need to start with, the things that you guys know better than me. You know innovation better than me. So, but we need to understand, to appreciate what it is. When we talk of innovation, what are we really talking about? And from a layman's point of view, that's from my point of view, innovation generally is actually, or put simply, is the creation of new concepts. They could be ideas, they could be, you name them. Whatever we are creating, then we are creating it because we want it. We are creating it or recreating it, improving what we already have. Either we have something new, or we have something, we are improving on something that we have. So, but then, having said that, I think we also need to understand why we innovate. Why do we really innovate? Why can't we just live with what we have and continue like that? But we innovate because we want to improve the quality of life, people's quality of life, betterment of people's lives. So in a way, we are saying we innovate for a specific purpose. And we also innovate for a specific kind of population. So we are saying, here is a people, these are the consumers of our new concepts. So we are actually doing it for them. So we are not like creating in a vacuum. We are creating because we have a specific purpose for that creation, and we are doing it for a specific kind of people. So, for example, in our case, when we innovate, who are we innovating for? Probably, I may reserve that question for later. But we may also need to understand the process of innovation. How do we innovate? Do we innovate as individuals or as groups? Do we do research for innovation? If we do research for innovation, do we do research as individuals or we do research as groups? If we do research and if we innovate as groups, then we need language because we have to communicate. So what I'm saying is, I'm persuaded, to think that when we research, when we innovate, it's more than one person. If it's 2, 3, 4, 20, 60, then it means we need to communicate amongst ourselves. It may be language as we have it now. It may be sign language, but it's communication. It's language. It means there is a definite need for language. So we cannot innovate without language. Number one. Number two, if we innovate, then it means we need to describe the process itself, the process of innovation. We need to describe it, we need to explain it. We need to speak to the process. We can only do that with language. At the end of the day, when we create new things, we need to name them. We need to give them names. And it's not a haphazard process of giving names to new concepts. Because remember, if we're innovating in engineering, we have concepts already in engineering. There is a network of naming that we have. We have concepts that relate to each other in a specific system, in a specific way, in a network that's so predictable. For example, I can give you an example of a phone. We used to have a phone, but there was innovation. Next, we have a cell phone. It's a cell phone because from the name itself, you can tell then the idea of a phone is still there. Yes, you give it identity by giving it something that's different, but you have to conform to the existing network. So there used to be a phone, the one that we call a landline, but now we have a cell phone in that network of things. Then we can actually name it properly. So when we talk of naming, already we are talking of language. We name through language. So what I'm saying simply here is that we need language to communicate in the process of innovating. Then we need it to explain to our fellow innovators. We need language. And this language is not ordinary language. It is specialized language. If we're innovating in agriculture, for example, then it means we need language that conforms to agricultural processes and so on and so on and so on. If it's telecommunications, then we need language that can speak to innovation in the area of telecommunications. So we cannot afford to have a language that's not developed. We cannot afford to have a language, a general language for use in for example, telecommunications, for example. We are talking of the network, we are talking of all kinds of things. we are talking my bundles, we are talking my app and so on. What we need to do for us to advance in those areas, we need to, whatever language we are using at this level, be it English, be it Japanese or whatever, the language should be, we should be able to use the language to then speak to the process. Sorry. Okay, so so that's the point that I'm making. So what it means then is whenever we are talking, innovation, we are also talking innovation in terms of the language itself. So generally, you would see that mind you, I'm from languages, but specializing in African languages. So generally, we are saying if we have to innovate in African languages, if we have to use the local languages for the heritage kind of information that we're talking about, then we have to ask ourselves so many questions. Can our languages be used for innovation in their current status? Can we use them, to create new knowledge, to create new concepts? Can we go to computer science and use Kalanga to do that? I don't know. I think it's, the guess is, we need to develop these languages. So I had a question here, or probably a comment to make to say, since innovation happens in specialized fields, we have our languages, Shona, Ndebele, you name them. We can use, these languages, and they are sufficient in our day-to-day, living. You can go to a shop, you can buy, you can go to a service station, you can get fuel, you can, these general, things you can do. But you can't go, to computer science and teach, for example, in Shona, as we have it now. But is it possible to do that? The answer is yes. Originally, Shona was taught in English because, the argument was you cannot use Shona to teach Shona because you don't have the terminology. But the terminology had to be developed, it had to be created. People had to innovate so that we have the terminology. So we did that. Dr. Namo was alluding to the fact that we wrote dictionaries. Yes, as teams we wrote dictionaries. So it was an effort, from some of us to say we cannot continue to teach Shona in English. When Japanese, teach their Japanese in Japanese, when the French, would teach, their language in French. So then it was a conscious effort to say, no, we need to innovate. We need to create new technology to afford us an opportunity to teach Shona in Shona. So we did that. And since 2007, Shona is now taught in Shona solely because we had this effort to make, a dictionary that speaks to that purpose. So the same can be done. I saw Prof. Giri. Remember the project that we were doing, of developing agricultural terms, shown agricultural terms through a dictionary. Fine, the project is still hanging up to now. But the idea was that, we need to have a dictionary that has terminology, agricultural terminology, that we can use to teach, to do research, whatever we are doing in agriculture, then using the local terminology, the Shona, language, to speak to Shona people and to do meaningful innovation. Let me hasten to say, we cannot innovate in a foreign language. We cannot develop as a country using foreign languages. The language that I'm using right now is a barrier to development. I cannot express myself very well because I'm speaking, a language that I'm not even comfortable in. I don't even dream in this language. I remember an article written by, a book rather, written by Professor Rukuni. He was actually declaring that, if you are using a foreign language, you can't develop. I don't know, but I tend to concur. As long as we use the English language to try and innovate, then we are actually, leaving a lot of people in the process. Pra also made the same point to say the moment we use the elitist language, it means we are saying we can only innovate as as academics, as people who understand this language that we don't even understand ourselves. So if we need to involve everybody in development, in innovation, then it means we need to use the language that people understand. So when we package our innovation, when we package our development, we are doing it for the general public. How do they access it in the foreign language? Those are questions, that we may need to think about earlier. And these were questions that I had here to say, who are we innovating for? English speakers or Shona Devele speakers, Kalanga speakers? If we are innovating for the local people, then please, we have a burden. We have a call, an urgent call to say we have to do it in the local languages. How do we express, our heritage in a foreign language? I thought language is part of heritage. I thought a person's language is at the center of their thinking. It's at the center of their expression. So I think we need to seriously, consider the issue of language, the language that we use for innovation as well. So if we are innovating for Zimbabweans, I think the call is we need to use Zimbabwean languages for innovation. Innovation in the process of doing our in the process of creating the new concepts, the new ideas, but also in terms of packaging it, in terms of documenting it. When we write about our innovation, do we think of the other people or the people that we are developing this for? If Japanese package their stuff we buy cars from Japan. Then their manuals are in Japanese. But do we stop? No, I can't buy a car from Japan because the manual is in Japanese. You have to find somebody to translate it for you. The most important thing is to do something that's good, package it in your language that you can understand, and then let it go. But I'm sorry to belabor this point because most people will tell you, no, we're using English because we want to be international. You can't start by being international. You have to start by being national. You have to start by being yourself before you can be the other person. Before you can assist the next person, you have to assist yourself. Anyway, enough about that. But then what we are saying now is, it actually follows that we need, when we are putting a lot of effort on innovating, on creating new concepts, we need to put equal effort in developing the languages so that they are actually elaborated, they are strengthened in a way that they can be used in the different kinds of disciplines. Then we can use them to innovate this. In engineering, we can use our languages in engineering, because we can't use them as they are right now. So I think there's just as we say we need to innovate, and that's urgent. It's also urgent to develop the languages, because otherwise then we innovate, in a linguistic vacuum, and I don't think we need to do that. It means we are developing, but leaving our heritage behind, because language is at the core of heritage. Anyway, that's that for the role of language in innovation. But how does innovation itself also assist language development? People might ask. the moment you talk of innovation, I think in our minds right now, we are thinking of computers, we are thinking of cell phones, we are thinking of all kinds of technological things. Language itself also benefits from, or language development, let me say, benefits from those technological gadgets. For example, if you look at language research, language documentation, and so on and so on, it has benefited a lot from innovations that have so far been made in terms of technology. I'll take an example of the dictionaries that Dr. Namo alluded to earlier on. To say, in the process of many years ago, many decades ago, the process of writing a dictionary, would need a lifetime. I can tell you, we have a professor who was with this university who spent 55 years writing a dictionary. Reason was because he was doing it manually. So he would do headword selection, manually, looking for terms manually, describing them manually, sorting them manually, And for your own information, and even in other cultures before innovation, people would use paper slips. Then, so it means you would need the innovation hub, the whole of the innovation hub to host, to host a dictionary project, because you would need all those rooms to put paper, to put catalogs, and so on and so on and so on. And so on. Research material that was in paper form and everything. But now with innovation, now we have computers. So the work that we did under Auri was computer-based. Everything that we did was computer-based. First was to develop corpora. These are language banks for the languages that we had started on. I can think here of Shona, Ndebele, Kalanga, Tonga, and Nambia. So we have corpora, we have language banks in those in languages. So what we are saying is, if you are a researcher, a language researcher, once this language bank is developed, eventually there's no need for you to go out there and do and bring papers, because when you go out there, you collect your data, everything is put into the bank, then you can query the bank. Then you look into your bank, you get out all the things that you want. We might have 1 billion words in a bank, but if you're looking for co-occurrence, for example, then you need less than 30 seconds. Then you have all the data, then you can analyze it. Unlike earlier on, where you would need 600 days to go through the papers, just to define 10 words. So what we are saying is that was innovation. Now we have the process of compiling dictionaries. Then we have databases. These databases, you have them. You have a server in our building there. Then all the offices are linked to that server, and then everybody can access the dictionary database from the server. So it means 20 people can work on that dictionary at once. And the software that's on that the database can actually assist you to sort your headwords, so you don't do it manually. You just click a button and everything that's there is sorted. I can go on and on, but I don't think it's for this discussion. But what I'm actually saying is, language development itself also benefits from innovation. So this is why in dictionary making we would say you don't only need linguists like myself, lexicographers like my. By the way, a lexicographer is one who specializes in dictionary making, and I'm one of those. But you don't need lexicographers by themselves. You need computer people, ICT people. You tell them what you want. I want database. I want you to do this for me. Then they create something customized for you. Then you use it, and then it becomes easier and faster. This is why we would produce a dictionary in 5 years, when other people would need 8 years, 110 years to produce earlier on. Then we would do it in 5 years, and people would say, but how come we are doing it? No, we are using innovation. You see, so we are saying there is a symbiotic relationship between language and innovation. Language needs to be innovated. It needs to be developed so that it can be used in all the kinds of innovations that we can think about. So we need language to be developed, but we also, because we need it for use, but then the language itself also benefits from the strides that you make when you innovate. So in a way, and in concluding, I think language needs innovation, and innovation needs language. And in the context of Zimbabwe, innovation in Zimbabwe needs Zimbabwean languages. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I think everyone should unmute their speakers, and we clap for the professor.
I'm clapping for you.
Yes, now you can mute. Thank you, Professor. When I phoned you this morning to help me out of a stack that I was in, I didn't know that you would rise to the occasion this way. Thank you very much.
No.
Yes,
okay.
Because I knew you would be the right person to help us out. Because really, I think I don't know if others would do better. We will, of course, try our best to bring them on board as well, because obviously they may add more to what you have said. But I think you have really done what I expected when I wanted somebody to talk about language and innovation, because you brought out two very important points. Language, you cannot innovate without language. I think that is just undeniable, because first of all, you have to, like you said, you do research. When you do research, you have to use a certain language. And obviously, as we said before, when you innovate for people, for specific people. That is why we call it heritage-based innovation, which then means that you have to research from that particular target group, and you have to speak a language that they understand. This is very important in terms of innovation, because sometimes we get excited about our innovations and then people don't get them. I was talking to one of my nieces who was innovating something for the blind, but she had never talked to anyone who is blind. And I said, this is impossible. You are just playing around, because there's no way you can understand. There is a particular language, I would say, from the position of the blind, what exactly they need. I think we can call it a language for the blind that you need to understand in order to innovate for them. So I think that's a very important and critical point that we need to take as innovators. And of course, I think this is a challenge that you've given us, Professor, that language itself is our heritage. We can't deny our heritage. Our African languages are our heritage in this country, and it is upon us, upon the innovators that we have in here, to develop that language. So we need to think about language development, whereby we develop our language to use in engineering. I'm always pointing fingers at engineers. Tafadzwa, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, Doc.
Yes, I'm always talking to the engineers because you know what? You are supposed to lead innovation. So there you are. Language has to be developed. We can't really say we are going to develop our country when we leave out the language that everyone else is speaking, that everyone else uses every day. So I think that is a very, very critical point to make. And the symbiotic relationship that you alluded to between language and innovation, they feed each other in that way. Yeah, I think this was a fantastic presentation, Professor. Thank you. I don't know if there are any comments. Dr. Mazande, what do you say? Dr. Mazande is the biochemist, Prof. Chabata. So I wonder what he says about this. You need to, to really be on him. Yeah, Doc.
Okay, now I've unmuted. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. That the presentation was very enlightening, especially for some of us who hardly ever hear this other perspective. So I found it very interesting when you were talking about innovation in languages. So let's take Shona, for instance. How do you innovate, Shona? What does it mean?
Right. I think I've alluded to the fact that the moment you have something new, a new concept, you need to name it. It means you have to create a name for it. The moment you are creating a name, you are actually creating a language. You are putting something new into the language. And this is how the language then can speak to that innovation. So you're actually creating terminology. Because I was talking to somebody at some point to say, the terms are not, in a heap somewhere where you can just go pick and bring. No, it means you have to create, whatever process that you use in innovation. Then you have to describe and explain the process in Shona. But by the way, because this is something that is new, it means you have to create the terminology, the right terminology to describe, to explain the process. The moment you are doing it, this is how we are bringing, new terminology into the language. And this is how the old is also being dropped. Because the moment you bring something new, it means you're actually relegating something. Tinoti kana tikaenda kumamushando kunotaurwa Shona chaiyo. It's because they're lagging behind in terms of innovation. I'm sorry to say this, but that's what it is. This is, for now, this is innovation that we are getting from outside. And this is why muchizonzaona achitaura kuti muri kupolluta language yedu. You're anglicizing our Shona. The reason is because iri cell phone mukambotanga kuti nonzi nharembozha. Because you're using the local resources, the linguistic resources that you had. Kuti inhareka, but ndeyembozha chete, because yanga ichiri vanhu vashoma then. But the moment yakabaya munhu wose, amuchagoni kuti inharembozha, makuti ndipo cell phone yangu. Mbuya ari kumusha kuti ndipo cell phone yangu. Now you don't have nharembozha anymore. You are having cell phone. Cell phone is from cell phone. So this is a word that's coming in, it's a term that's coming into the language. You are expanding, the language itself, because you're bringing something new, so you're expanding it. So in a way, so we are saying when we're now, if we do if you don't innovate, you don't have the right to name. But if you innovate, then you have the right to name. So we are saying if we do the innovation here, then we have the right to name in our languages. So the moment we do that in our language, it means we are creating language. We are bringing something new into the language, and the language grows. And it can be used. Right now, to describe my process I'm not in biochemistry. We want to describe those in Shona. How do we do it? We have to create the Shona. We have to innovate the language so that we can then, describe them.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. One of the observations that I've made in the vanoimba
Yes.
vakomana veurban groups vanenge vari kuinnovheta chaizvo
Yes.
nekuti vane mamwe mashoko avo dutu remashoko matsva atava kutodzidzira havo ikoko. But so as a follow-up, so who do you think should drive this innovation of our local language? Let's say I do something in the lab. Obviously, I'm going to use the language and which is English, because I easily relate to that. And linguistically, I may not have that wealth in terms of my terminologies, which I can mix to come up with new terminologies. So who should drive? Let's say we come up with something new in the biochemistry lab. Then what do we do so that we can also marry the linguistic innovation to it, so that at least it sells to the Zimbabwe?
That's a very important question. Very, very, very important. Because you know what? People think linguists have the responsibility of doing that. True, but not by themselves. So what it means is, if it's something in biochemistry, the linguists are trained to innovate in language. Biochemists are trained to innovate in biochemistry. So there is need for partnership now.
Yeah.
So then, because then you bring in a linguist, then you explain to them in the language that you are, in this case, yes, it's not that. The moment you name Jim Sanangur, the trained linguist should be in a position to create Matemziwa.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, you have, mind you, you have the intimate knowledge. You have the creamy knowledge, which the linguist doesn't have. Training yokuchi package that knowledge so that kana yozobuda isaita ya linguist. That's why I'm saying kana patinogadzira ma dictionary specialized dictionaries atigadziri tiri ma linguist tega. My general dictionary language if you look at my dictionaries that we produced, it was just by linguists. Because in language but my specialized areas it needs partnership between the linguists and the subject experts. Right. Then those two. That's what I'm trying to my dictionary music, this is a biomedical, it was something Chaka request on medicine. Because the doctors hospitals anoska unoudzwa nemunhu kuti mudhara anobva kumba oti ndirikunzwa gumbo mwana wangu ndirikunzwa gumbo azviudza chiremba ko raita sei gumbo zonzi rakabva pasi. And what is kubva pasi? So then you need to explain zvinizvi ne language inonzibona sekuru asi chinzibona na chiremba. So there's need for communication between those two groups. So that's why we then developed this dictionary to bridge the gap between the doctor and the patient. So it's unfortunate that because we had a plan yatanga tinayo, a solid plan yanga yakananga kuti tinoda kuti because takaita this one medicine tatine something chatakaita really developed more comprehensive.
Right.
Then takaita music reshona nendevele, then takaita linguistics rekushandisa in language and linguistics out there. Then we were working on the agriculture to address issue. Can you imagine they're not specialists, but avazivi zvavari kushandisa. Ndosaka muchiona kuti dzimwe nguva vanopisa mbeu nokuti havagoni even kuverenga zvinhu zviri pachi. So we were saying the moment we develop in these areas, then we would then say agriculture in Shona or in developing whatever we decide to do in terms of policy. But ISUS as researchers, tinofana move forward. Ministry technology development is at then Prof. Jiri, you remember ITF Blower?
Yes, I do remember.
You see, so pakunema request angati vakwachinzi toda kuti science itichwe in Shona. Science itichwe in Ndebele. So those things can be done between my language specialists and my subject specialists like yourself.
Right.
There's need yekuti ndosaka takagashira chaizvo nyaya yekuti ngatibvise because if you look at kana makuita zvinhu zvinochekuita neengineering, then you need my engineers. If you are doing biochemistry, you need the biochemists, and then we work together. Then we go.
One request. Komukamboti Jasaria publication yose inobuda pano inenge ine neshona.
That's a fantastic suggestion, Prof. Chabata.
Yes, it's possible. You know what? You know, people think those things are not possible. But guess what? If you know the Zimbabwean Constitution.
A little, yes.
You have not seen it?
No, I have.
You know, do you know that we have that document in all Zimbabwean languages?
Yeah, that I do. Yes, that I do.
We did that.
Okay. Wow.
I went through every word, read that thing in translating it into Shona.
Wow.
So it's possible. It's possible. So
yeah.
But I have this to say. So at times because emotional because language. but point reason why people don't want to publish in Shona. As academics, readership I lose readership because then it means I'm only read by people who can read Shona.
Yeah.
Easy. So that's the problem, and this is the problem that we first we had when we started publishing in dictionaries in Shona. At some point, and I was research and I was with a group of teachers and students and so on and so on. Then I think the dictionary say. Because I know everything. And do I need anything in Shona? It's now the question of attitude. Can attitude I want to be read by Vanwari Kunze? If you write a powerful paper in Shona, it will be translated into English. Or we can actually put my policy, whatever you publish, you promote yes, publish in your English, but you also want to have it in Shona. Then you know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think we need policy.
Yeah,
that's the thing. So this is why I'm trying to grain of wheat. We also have it in Shona, Sangaembe. And we have it in other languages, so many languages, because it's something that people need. So the moment we create something really useful to other people, they will find ways of grabbing them.
Sure.
Thank you, Prof.
I enjoyed your questions.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, and thanks, Doc. Yeah. Anyone else with a comment?
Just to say, Prof. Chabata, our dictionary is still outstanding.
You see, Prof. We need this thing. We need this thing.
Yes, so we are coming.
Please.
Prof. Chifamba, No, no, there is a Chifamba there from medical.
Oh, very more voodoo.
Yeah, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
You saw the, do you have the dictionary, Prof?
I don't have the dictionary.
You need to talk to Prof Chabata.
No, he needs a PhD student and a medicine to actually do it properly. If he's going to
No.
be doing it, so a PhD student would help.
Yeah, Prof, you missed out. He actually showed us a dictionary that he did. Yeah, you saw it?
Yes.
Yeah, so you will need to get that one and check it out. Yeah, if
How are
there
you?
is, yeah. So I thank you, Prof Chabata, for the, you see, Kuti, it was very good that you came. Most people really benefited from this. Whatever you said to Doc Mazando applies to everyone. To the engineers, I'm always talking about the engineers, but today I also want to mention the computer engineers. We need, I mean, there is so much that you can do in terms of language development. For example, I know Facebook, for example, now you can Facebook in Shona. Somebody actually did that. We can, on Google, you can Google in Shona. Hopefully, I can't remember. I know you can Google in other languages, but you can Google in Shona. All those things, those are the facets of language development that we are talking about, because once you have your language integrated into those technologies, it means the language is not going to die. There is no point in being, letting our language die, and then we become Englishanized or whatever it is, when it is upon us to keep our heritage going, not just because it is pride, we need to have pride in it, but because it is also critical, like you need to think about. And I like the point that you made, Prof, that people want to be read out there, but there are 16 million people that can actually read your work here. So I think we are missing a lot of readers with the way we are publishing. Yet when we go to compete out there, those people who prioritize their own work because they are not living in Zimbabwe. You are publishing something on Zimbabwe, but you publish it in English. Most of people that are out there, except somebody who wants to do something in Zimbabwe, those are the ones who come to you. So I think it's also a catch-22 in terms of that argument to say I'll be missing readers, because really you are already missing 16 million potential readers here. So I think that's a very important thing. It's just that we need to talk about these things more. So I will be coming back to you again, Prof, to present these things on another platform where we can get this message across the university. The issue of multidisciplinarity, Dr. Mazando mentioned, how do we do it? I think you need to bring in the linguists into your lab. They observe what you are doing, you talk to them, they will give you the names straight away, because in Shona, as you know, the names come from observation, whatever you are doing, maybe the way you run around in your lab might result in the naming of the product or something like that. So yeah, so thank you so much, Prof. We really enjoyed your presentation, and thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.